Elizabeth and Andre's story on 90 Day Fiancé has always been one full of twists, drama, and more than a few jaw-dropping moments. Fans first met them as a couple whose differences were impossible to ignore. Cultural clashes, family dynamics, and strong personalities made for a perfect reality TV storm, and for years they navigated it with what seemed like an unshakable resilience. On screen, they appeared to balance love, loyalty, and occasional frustration, giving viewers the drama they craved without ever seeming to crack completely. Many assumed they were the kind of couple who could survive anything TLC threw their way, the type of partnership that becomes a fan favorite because they always seem to come out on top. Publicly, they were seen as strong, confident, and capable of handling the pressures of being in the spotlight. Their Instagram posts, carefully curated appearances, and occasional candid interviews suggested a couple who had found a rhythm despite the challenges of reality TV fame. Fans admired them for their ability to stay together under scrutiny, and it was easy to forget that reality TV often only shows the highlights. You could watch an episode and think, wow, they really have it all figured out, never guessing the cracks that were forming behind closed doors. But behind the cameras, things reportedly started to shift. Minor disputes that might have once been brushed off were allegedly becoming more frequent and intense. Conversations about money, schedules, and family obligations reportedly began to carry more weight, and small disagreements turned into arguments that lingered long after filming ended. Subtle changes in body language, clipped responses, and the occasional defensive comment hinted at a growing strain. Even fans who were keen observers of their behavior on the show might have missed these signals, but insiders suggest the storm was quietly gathering. Financial decisions also became a point of tension. Elizabeth and Andre, like many reality stars, had structured aspects of their lives around the stability that TLC income and brand deals provided. Reports suggest that what might have been a routine financial choice slowly escalated into something much more serious, creating pressure on both partners. Money, as it often does, seemed to amplify existing insecurities and disagreements. And while most couples argue about bills and investments, this was reportedly compounded by the public nature of their lives, where every choice could be analyzed and criticized online. Even with tension building, there were moments of humor and relatability. Fans could see Elizabeth rolling her eyes during Andre's stubborn moments, or Andre throwing his hands up when things didn't go as planned. These small human reactions reminded viewers that while they were on-camera stars, they were also navigating the same struggles that any couple faces. That relatability helped maintain their appeal, even as private pressures allegedly mounted. And yet, despite the appearance of stability, the cracks were forming in ways most viewers couldn't see. Arguments may have been off-camera, strategic financial decisions may have caused resentment, and family pressures may have quietly influenced choices. It's the kind of tension that doesn't make headlines, but quietly reshapes a relationship from the inside out. But the cameras never caught the real storm brewing behind the scenes. The $1 million loss reportedly changed everything for Elizabeth and Andre. Sources suggest that what began as a high-risk investment strategy quickly spiraled into financial chaos. Andre allegedly made the trades, but Elizabeth's involvement, whether through encouragement or approval, made the fallout deeply personal. When the numbers came back negative, the blame didn't stay neutral. What might have started as a shared responsibility reportedly turned into a point of contention, with each partner quietly questioning the other's judgment. Suddenly, what looked like a strategic decision became a wedge between them. Elizabeth is said to have been gripped by anxiety over stability. Concerns about her children's future, household security, and personal independence reportedly became constant sources of tension. She allegedly began to second-guess not just the investment, but the way decisions were made in the marriage overall. Andre, on the other hand, reportedly withdrew, retreating behind a defensive wall and avoiding discussions that could escalate into blame. Friends who spent time with them say the emotional distance was noticeable, with Elizabeth appearing tense and Andre noticeably quieter than usual. And then Elizabeth made a choice that left everyone stunned. Sources hint that she quietly began exploring options to regain control of her life, including stepping back from TLC. The financial loss, combined with the pressures of public scrutiny, allegedly pushed her to consider independence in a way she hadn't before. Meanwhile, Andre reportedly struggled with the shift, feeling both responsible for the losses and frustrated by the emotional distance growing between them. The emotional fallout reportedly extended into co-parenting decisions. Arguments that might have been simple disagreements about schedules or routines allegedly became amplified by the financial strain. Elizabeth's desire for security reportedly clashed with Andre's more defensive, controlling instincts. Sources suggest that even routine conversations became tense, with small comments interpreted as criticism and each partner feeling misunderstood. Financial pressure, in this case, magnified the fractures that were quietly forming long before the stock market losses. As tensions reportedly mounted, sources describe both Elizabeth and Andre focusing less on resolving problems and more on protecting themselves emotionally. Elizabeth, allegedly seeking stability, began tightening control over daily decisions and long-term plans. Andre, feeling the weight of blame and public exposure, reportedly oscillated between frustration and retreat. Friends noticed the shift in energy, describing interactions as strained, transactional, and lacking the warmth that once defined their relationship. And then, Andre reportedly made a move that surprised even their closest allies. According to insiders, he began questioning Elizabeth's involvement in decisions and the role her family played behind the scenes. This reportedly intensified arguments and deepened emotional distance, creating a cycle of blame and withdrawal that neither partner could easily break. Every financial discussion reportedly carried an undercurrent of tension, fear, and mistrust. The stakes reportedly weren't just emotional, they were practical. Sources claim that the couple had to reassess budgets, postpone investments, and rethink long-term plans. Every decision about money, parenting, and their future together reportedly became a potential flashpoint. Financial stress, it seems, didn't just expose cracks, it widened them, turning small disagreements into larger conflicts that were increasingly hard to navigate. What they said to each other in private will shock even the most loyal fans. Family dynamics reportedly added another layer of stress for Elizabeth and Andre. Sources suggest Elizabeth's relatives grew increasingly vocal about the couple's finances and marital decisions, pushing her to consider options she might not have otherwise. Andre, who historically resisted interference, allegedly felt cornered, misunderstood, and isolated. What might have been a minor disagreement on its own reportedly escalated into a deeper emotional divide as both partners navigated loyalty, obligation, and personal boundaries. Every family conversation reportedly carried more weight than it should, turning small suggestions into perceived judgments and amplifying existing tension. No one expected the production fight to turn personal. Behind the cameras, TLC reportedly noticed the shift as well. Sources hint that Elizabeth began requesting edits to storylines that portrayed her as unstable or emotionally exposed, while Andre allegedly resisted narratives that made him appear solely responsible for the couple's issues. Production reportedly faced a delicate balancing act, trying to maintain the show's drama without pushing the couple further into conflict. What audiences saw as occasional tension was, according to insiders, only the tip of a much larger iceberg. Even with the cameras rolling, the couple allegedly adjusted behavior to protect themselves. Public appearances and social media posts remained composed, curated, and carefully neutral. To fans, it seemed like business as usual, but sources claim this contrast between public image and private reality created its own stress. Elizabeth reportedly felt the pressure to maintain appearances while managing profound personal uncertainty, while Andre reportedly struggled with the frustration of being misrepresented and blamed publicly. Every smile for the camera reportedly required emotional energy he was increasingly reluctant to give. Then, a production decision reportedly escalated tensions further. Sources hint that a scene intended to highlight a minor disagreement spiraled into an argument about control and representation, with both Elizabeth and Andre pushing back. The conflict reportedly left producers concerned and highlighted the fragile nature of the couple's public image versus private reality. What was supposed to be a storyline for entertainment allegedly became a mirror reflecting real fractures in trust and communication. At the same time, family influence reportedly continued to weigh heavily. Elizabeth's relatives allegedly voiced concerns about the financial loss and the impact on her children, creating pressure she couldn't easily ignore. Andre, on the other hand, reportedly interpreted these interventions as undermining his authority and blamed him for decisions he claimed were made jointly. The result was a cycle of resentment, emotional withdrawal, and conflict that insiders suggest was invisible to viewers. Even minor disagreements reportedly became opportunities for reflection and tension. Each edited scene, each social media post, each interaction with family or production allegedly carried additional meaning, fueling a slow building pressure that was difficult to escape. The combination of public scrutiny, behind the scenes interference, and private resentment reportedly created a perfect storm that made navigating everyday life increasingly complicated. And what happened next behind the cameras changes everything you thought you knew. As the financial pressures and family tensions mounted, sources suggest Elizabeth and Andre reportedly stopped trying to resolve disputes in the ways they once did. What were once heated arguments that ended with compromise allegedly turned into quiet, measured discussions about logistics, finances, and future arrangements. Friends reportedly noticed the shift immediately. What had once been lively conversations were now transactional and tense. Even shared moments like coordinating schedules or discussing co-parenting reportedly carried an undertone of distance. How do two people who once thrived in the spotlight grow so disconnected without the world noticing? Emotional exhaustion reportedly set in quickly. Elizabeth is said to have become quieter, more guarded, limiting interactions to what she deemed absolutely necessary. Andre allegedly alternated between withdrawal and defensive frustration, often retreating when confronted with topics he felt judged him unfairly. Sources describe interactions that lacked warmth, where words were weighed carefully and smiles were sparse. It was as if every conversation carried an invisible ledger of blame and resentment. Loyalty reportedly remained, but it was tangled with fear, fear of loss, fear of blame, and fear of uncertainty. Could a marriage survive when communication becomes strategic rather than heartfelt? Insider accounts suggest the couple's conversations no longer aimed at connection, but at protecting themselves. Elizabeth reportedly focused on long-term stability, considering personal independence and security for her children. Andre allegedly wrestled with the loss of control over both emotional and financial aspects of their shared life. Each partner's priorities reportedly clashed silently, making reconciliation more complicated. The things they once laughed about now became sparks for tension, and even minor disagreements reportedly escalated without resolution. Then came subtle behavioral shifts that friends say were hard to ignore. Elizabeth reportedly became more selective about what she shared publicly and privately, controlling the narrative to preserve her image and emotional energy. Andre, by contrast, reportedly showed signs of frustration with the growing emotional distance, but often chose withdrawal over confrontation. Even their social outings allegedly carried an air of formality, a performance to maintain appearances while privately grappling with mounting disconnection. How do you navigate love when each word feels like a negotiation? Blame reportedly became a quiet undercurrent of every exchange. Elizabeth allegedly felt Andre was responsible for the financial fallout and perceived lapses in judgment, while Andre reportedly felt scapegoated and misunderstood. Friends noticed that arguments no longer sought resolution, they were a means to assert position and protect pride. The trust and openness that once characterized their relationship allegedly eroded gradually, replaced by suspicion and caution. It's a pattern familiar to many couples under pressure, but magnified exponentially by the public scrutiny they faced. Even minor interactions reportedly became emotionally charged. Every logistical decision, every family discussion, every financial conversation allegedly served as a test of control and priorities. Outsiders could see a couple functioning on the surface, but insiders reportedly described a relationship operating in parallel worlds, one public and composed, one private and fraying. Each attempt at communication reportedly risked triggering an argument or deepening the emotional divide. Could their relationship survive this silence? Fans are divided. Sources hint that Elizabeth and Andre are navigating the quiet planning of separation, weighing options and responsibilities without fanfare, while still maintaining appearances for the cameras and their public image. The question isn't whether tension exists, it's whether it can be repaired before the emotional distance becomes permanent. Despite the turmoil behind the scenes, Elizabeth and Andre reportedly maintained a carefully controlled public presence. Social media posts, photos, and occasional updates suggested stability and normalcy, giving fans the impression of a couple managing the usual ups and downs. Yet sources insist that every smile, every staged moment, and every polished post was a layer of protection, designed to keep private struggles away from public scrutiny. To outsiders, it looked like the same resilient pair viewers had come to know, but insiders claimed the reality was far more complicated. Fans quickly picked up on subtle inconsistencies, sparking speculation and commentary across forums and social media platforms. Some followers interpreted neutral posts as signs of tension, while others assumed all was fine. The narrative became a guessing game, with conspiracy theories emerging around potential splits, secret arguments, or production conflicts. What the audience didn't see reportedly were the quiet negotiations, private disagreements, and emotional withdrawals that define the couple's day-to-day lives. Sources suggest that the contrast between public image and private reality created a unique kind of pressure. Elizabeth allegedly felt the weight of maintaining composure for her children, her family, and the public, while also navigating financial instability and a deteriorating marriage. Andre reportedly struggled with how to protect his reputation and respond to narratives he felt were unfair or one-sided. Every interaction, every photo, and every comment had an added layer of stakes, public approval, personal pride, and emotional safety. It was a balancing act few could understand fully. The disconnect reportedly influenced how both partners approached social situations. Appearances at family events, social outings, or even production meetings were allegedly carefully curated to avoid revealing underlying stress. Elizabeth's body language and tone, according to insiders, reflected guardedness and cautious observation. Andre, on the other hand, reportedly oscillated between tension and neutral presentation, trying to avoid conflict while internally managing frustration and blame. Fans who assumed normalcy reportedly had no way of knowing how heavy the emotional load was behind each composed moment. Meanwhile, the social media lens reportedly amplified minor incidents into fan speculation. A single expression, a seemingly harmless caption, or a paused interaction could fuel hours of debate online. Viewers theorized motives, imagined secret fights, and speculated about TLC contracts, without seeing the slow buildup of financial, emotional, and familial strain that insiders describe. For the couple, this meant every public-facing action risked misinterpretation, and sources suggested added another layer of isolation as they had to measure personal feelings against public perception constantly. Yet, there are empathetic layers to consider. Both Elizabeth and Andre allegedly faced the pressures of fame, where private struggles became a form of entertainment for millions. Maintaining a composed image reportedly required constant vigilance, and the need to protect personal boundaries sometimes collided with contractual obligations to share aspects of their lives for the cameras. Sources say this tension created a feedback loop. Public expectations increased stress, while private stress demanded stricter control of public appearances. Fans saw polished smiles, insiders saw a couple carefully managing a fragile equilibrium. And, just when you think you understand them, the truth flips again. Elizabeth reportedly focused on protecting her children and maintaining independence, while Andre allegedly concentrated on control and narrative accuracy, even as he navigated emotional exhaustion. Their experiences illustrate the complexity of public life, where every gesture, every decision, and every post carries layers of meaning beyond what fans see. The juxtaposition of what is shared and what is concealed adds to the intrigue, making it difficult to separate reality from performance, loyalty from blame, or strategic silence from emotional withdrawal. While fan speculation rages, insiders hint that both Elizabeth and Andre are quietly reassessing priorities. Reports suggest that their focus is on navigating a path that balances personal security, family stability, and the pressures of public attention. Every move, from financial decisions to social media engagement, reportedly carries consequences in both spheres. What appears as calm or neutrality publicly may mask hours of negotiation, reflection, and conflict privately, emphasizing that fame often disguises the real emotional landscape behind the cameras. Through all this, one thing becomes clear: the audience sees only fragments of a complicated story. Public perception, social media commentary, and fan theories can't capture the full weight of financial strain, family interference, or emotional exhaustion. For Elizabeth and Andre, maintaining appearances is reportedly as much about self-preservation as it is about public relations. Their private reality, invisible to the cameras, continues to shape choices, interactions, and even long-term plans, highlighting the gap between perception and truth. Sources indicate that Elizabeth is allegedly considering a complete exit from TLC, signaling a shift that could change everything fans have come to expect. Reports suggest she wants to step back from reality television entirely, prioritizing personal stability, her children's well-being, and independence over the exposure and income that the franchise provides. This move reportedly stems not just from the recent financial losses, but also from the emotional toll of managing constant scrutiny while maintaining appearances. For viewers, it may appear sudden, but insiders suggest it is the result of months of careful consideration and quiet planning. Andre, on the other hand, reportedly struggles with this potential shift. Having long relied on both the platform and the structured narrative of the show, sources claim he feels a loss of control over both his personal life and public image. Without the cameras and contracts guiding interactions, Andre allegedly faces uncertainty not only about his career opportunities, but also about how to maintain authority and stability within the marriage. Friends and insiders suggest that this tension fuels additional strain between him and Elizabeth, as each navigates priorities that are increasingly divergent. The couple reportedly remains in private discussions, weighing their options carefully. Sources hint that topics include living arrangements, financial responsibilities, co-parenting logistics, and the long-term implications of leaving TLC. These conversations are said to be calm but deliberate, far removed from the public arguments fans may imagine. Every decision carries ripple effects, and insiders suggest that even minor choices could have significant consequences for both personal and professional spheres. How do you plan a future when every option feels like it could redefine everything you know? Adding to the suspense is the question of public reaction. If Elizabeth formally exits, will the narrative on social media and among fans shift dramatically? Sources indicate that both she and Andre are aware that any public acknowledgement of their struggles or separation could provoke speculation, criticism, and intense scrutiny. That awareness reportedly affects how they interact with each other and with the franchise, reinforcing the need for strategic communication and measured public appearances. The stakes, insiders suggest, are higher than they have ever been. At the same time, internal dynamics reportedly remain tense. Elizabeth allegedly feels the need to reclaim autonomy and protect her family from further instability. Andre reportedly experiences a sense of displacement, worried that leaving the show might diminish his public visibility and limit his options. According to sources, this combination of financial strain, emotional distance, and professional uncertainty creates a situation where every move must be calculated, every conversation carefully managed, and every decision weighed for both immediate and long-term impact. One insider reportedly described the situation as a crossroads. Elizabeth and Andre are navigating a phase where the marriage could either be recalibrated or quietly dissolve. Sources claim that, unlike earlier conflicts, this moment is less about emotional outbursts and more about strategic evaluation. Yet the human element, loyalty, fear, and the desire for stability remains deeply influential, complicating decisions that could otherwise be straightforward. Then there's the question of TLC's response. Reports hint that the network may be hesitant to continue storylines with a couple whose private reality conflicts so sharply with their public image. Elizabeth's alleged reluctance to engage fully with production reportedly further complicates the situation. If the network decides to remove them, or if Elizabeth steps away voluntarily, insiders suggest it will mark a quiet yet dramatic turning point. The show's narrative momentum could shift, leaving fans and production alike scrambling to adapt. For now, sources indicate the couple remains in a delicate balance between maintaining appearances and planning for a future that is increasingly uncertain. Every decision about finances, communication, or professional engagement reportedly carries the potential to tip the scales. One small choice, whether a legal filing, a public statement, or a private move, could reportedly rewrite the story of their marriage and reshape how fans perceive them. One small decision could rewrite their story forever. Elizabeth and Andre are reportedly standing at the edge of multiple possibilities: continued collaboration with TLC, a quiet exit, or an eventual separation. Each path carries profound emotional, financial, and public implications. For viewers, the drama is invisible, unfolding behind carefully curated posts and controlled appearances. For the couple, every step is a negotiation with both reality and perception, leaving the future uncertain but charged with high stakes that could permanently redefine who they are on screen and off. Looking at Elizabeth and Andre's situation, it's clear that reality television can create pressures most viewers rarely consider. On screen, they seemed like a resilient, united couple, managing cultural differences, family conflicts, and the usual ups and downs of life in front of cameras. Behind closed doors, sources indicate a very different story. Emotional exhaustion, financial strain, and private disagreements reportedly built up gradually, reaching a point where everyday interactions were transactional rather than intimate. Fans often forget that for reality stars, every smile, every appearance, and every post carries layers of meaning beyond the public eye. Financial lessons emerge sharply here. The reported $1 million loss didn't just impact their bank accounts, it allegedly shifted the dynamics of blame, trust, and decision-making between them. Sources suggest Elizabeth and Andre each felt different forms of pressure. Elizabeth seeking security and independence, Andre struggling with loss of control and authority. The story highlights how financial setbacks can amplify existing tensions in any relationship, and how accountability, communication, and shared vision are crucial to weathering such storms. Even outside of television, these themes resonate widely. Emotionally, insiders describe a couple grappling with loyalty, fear, and the need for stability. Elizabeth's alleged choice to prioritize her children and independence reportedly clashed with Andre's desire to maintain control and preserve their shared public narrative. That friction reportedly fueled quiet arguments, strategic silences, and moments of withdrawal that may have been invisible to fans but devastating behind the scenes. The lesson for anyone watching is how subtle emotional fractures can grow when compounded by external pressures, whether it's work stress, family interference, or public scrutiny. Public scrutiny itself is another key factor. Sources indicate that every action, photos, captions, interactions was analyzed, theorized about, and dissected by fans and social media followers. That level of attention can heighten stress, limit freedom of expression, and increase anxiety within a relationship. Elizabeth and Andre reportedly had to navigate not just the normal complexities of marriage, but also the added layer of constant evaluation, judgment, and expectation. For fans, it's a reminder that what appears on screen is only part of the story, and that behind curated posts lies a more nuanced reality. For those reflecting on this story, the balance between loyalty and independence is a powerful takeaway. Elizabeth allegedly weighed commitment to her marriage and family against her own long-term security and autonomy. Andre reportedly faced the opposite challenge, trying to reconcile personal desire for control with the evolving dynamics of the relationship. For viewers, it raises a question. If you were in Elizabeth's shoes, would you stay or prioritize your own stability? And for those watching Andre's side, how would you handle the loss of influence over both private and public life? Psychologically, coping mechanisms are central to the narrative. Emotional withdrawal, strategic communication, and careful public presentation reportedly became survival tools for both Elizabeth and Andre. The story shows how humans often protect themselves when circumstances feel out of control, balancing vulnerability with self-preservation. Fans can see parallels in their own lives. When financial, relational, or professional stress peaks, maintaining boundaries, communication, and self-awareness becomes critical. There's also a lesson in timing and preparation. Sources suggest Elizabeth and Andre are reportedly making decisions slowly, carefully weighing the impact on family, public perception, and future opportunities. This approach illustrates the importance of foresight and planning when facing major life transitions. Even under pressure, deliberate consideration can prevent impulsive choices from creating larger, lasting consequences. Finally, the story invites reflection on empathy. While fans may have strong opinions, insiders suggest both Elizabeth and Andre are navigating incredibly complex personal and professional dynamics. The pressures of reality television magnify ordinary challenges, making empathy, understanding, and careful analysis more valuable than judgment or assumption. It's a reminder that every public figure has layers of private struggle unseen by the audience. And the answers might surprise you. Elizabeth and Andre's story offers lessons about communication, trust, emotional resilience, and the interplay between public image and private reality. For fans, it's an opportunity to think critically, reflect on personal choices, and consider how loyalty, independence, and financial responsibility intersect in high-pressure situations. It also underscores that what seems simple from the outside is often layered with complexity, emotional stakes, and real consequences. Ultimately, their journey serves as a mirror, inviting viewers to ask difficult questions about relationships, personal boundaries, and the ways external pressures shape private life. Elizabeth and Andre are reportedly standing at a crossroads that could redefine everything fans thought they knew. A single decision, whether it's stepping away from TLC, restructuring their finances, or quietly separating, has the power to rewrite their story completely. Sources suggest the tension is both personal and professional, affecting not just their marriage, but their public image and long-term stability. Every choice seems loaded with consequence, every interaction carefully measured. The stakes are higher than ever, and the silence behind the cameras is louder than any argument ever aired on TV. For viewers, it's a reminder that reality television rarely shows the full picture. Elizabeth's alleged pursuit of independence and Andre's struggle with control highlight a human story behind the drama, a mix of fear, loyalty, and the desire for stability. What happens next could either rebuild their bond or quietly close a chapter that fans have followed for years. Next, you won't believe what unfolds for this cast member from another 90-Day Fiancé season. A shocking twist, unexpected confrontations, and private decisions are set to shake everything fans think they know. You thought this was the end, but the drama is far from over.